Welcome to Motorbike Explorer. At the end of last episode, I had arrived at the Mexican immigration office in order to process my exit and receive my vehicle import deposit. All went smoothly. Then I continued 2.5 miles down the road and arrived at the border with Guatemala. To my surprise, I was faced with a huge crowd of protesters and a long line of traffic blocking my entry. As I walked around the area, I saw there was no way of passing through with my bike. While I was waiting patiently next to my bike, I began speaking with a local who told me that the protest would take all day. I asked him if there was any other way to cross, and he pointed to a road that was only accessible by foot or motorbike. So I followed this road down a steep hill, through a stream, and back up the hill on the Guatemala side. I found the immigration office, and with a surprised look on the border official's face, my passport was stamped. What a crazy way to start a new country. Several miles after crossing the border in Llama, I mounted my camera on my helmet and continued filming the journey. At this point, I haven't been accustomed to dealing with the money exchangers at the borders, so I ended up using a bank that was located inside this store. I later realized that I would actually receive a better rate by using the money exchangers on the street. Live and learn. Now that I have spending cash for gas, my entry into Guatemala is complete. It's time to relax and soak up all the scenery. Traveling along the Pan American Highway, I noticed that the terrain is very mountainous. I later discovered that these mountains are called the Fontanez. I'm currently riding along at just over 3,000 feet above sea level, and the mountain peaks in this area range from 5,000 feet to over 12,500 feet above sea level. Despite the elevation, the climate is very hot and dry. The boundaries of Guatemala were once the core of the Great Maya civilization, which dates back as far as 8000 BC during the Archaic period. But archaeological evidence suggests a human presence as early as 18,000 BC. Today there are around 16 million people living in Guatemala, and 5 million of that is located just in the metro area of Guatemala City. It's still day number 1 in this country, and I'm headed toward my first overnight stop in the city of Huehuetenango, where a little rest and relaxation is in order. I am in awe riding through these narrow valleys surrounded by tall mountain ranges. Every now and then I see small farming villages situated along the hillsides, with narrow and steep footpaths leading down to the Selegua River. also observed that there are less forms of public transportation in the area, so people rely on those with cars or pickup trucks for rides to neighboring cities. I'll be using the city of Huehuetenango as somewhat of a recon base to plan out the rest of my route. When you're traveling overland, plans can drastically change in seconds due to breakdowns, road closures, illness, and as I just experienced this morning, protests. So I only typically plan a day or two in advance while always remaining flexible as to what curveballs life has in store for you. The valley seems to be widening and I am seeing more cars on the road, so that can only mean one thing. I'm approaching the city of Huehuetenango, and not a moment too soon, because I'm starting to hit my limit of sitting on this bike for all day long. After a couple of days of rest and a little bit of trip planning, I've decided to stay at a campground located on Lake Atitlan, about a 5-hour drive away. It will be another long day of riding. During my research of Guatemala, I have come across some disturbing news articles about recent crime and violence. I understand that violence occurs in every country, but I would feel a lot better if there was a larger police presence to keep things in check. I just need to stay vigilant, but not let these thoughts take over my eagerness to explore new places. Reflecting back on my travels so far, I have ridden through some very dangerous cities, but I have never once felt threatened or uneasy. Despite what you read or what friends and family will tell you, most people are afraid of the unknown. Maybe it's because we make judgments on the very little information that's presented to us in the media. But you can't forget, it's the media. Most of it is bad news, and the more shocking it is, the better the ratings and the more ad revenue is generated. That is why social media platforms that share real people's experiences are important to all of us, so that we have a clear understanding of what we're getting into, or what we may not want to get into. Traveling is amazing, but I think there are different ways of experiencing a new country. There's nothing wrong with destination resorts, luxury hotels, and secluded beaches full of touristy shops and restaurants, but for me, that's not visiting another country. I want my curiosity to guide me, and I want to immerse myself in new cultures by interacting with locals, and then I'll make my own opinions about the places I've visited. This way of traveling certainly isn't easy, and it's definitely not glamorous, but has anyone said the best things in life are easy? Language, clothes, food, architecture, and infrastructure may be different in each country, but when you get to the core of what makes us all human, we are the same anywhere you go. We're all just trying to live and be happy. I've finally made it to the outskirts of Lake Atitlan, and will be following my GPS to the campground on the northern side of the lake. But what I failed to notice during my trip planning is that I'll be descending a very steep, narrow, and windy road down a mountain, totaling 3,500 feet of vertical drop. Lake Atitlan is considered to be one of the most beautiful lakes in the world and is one of Guatemala's most significant tourist attraction. However, it is not easy to get to. The lake is surrounded by small villages inhabited by the Maya people, and each village has their own unique Maya dialect, which, if you asked me, sounds like a cross between Spanish and Polish. Lake Atitlan is the deepest lake in all of Central America at a maximum depth of 1,120 feet. It was made naturally by a caldera formation, which is when volcanoes erupt large volumes of magma over a short period of time. The magma chamber below the volcanoes can no longer be supported structurally, and as a result collapses on top of itself. When the lake became a national park in 1955, it was unknown to the rest of the world. It was suggested by Pan American World Airways to stock the lake with a prized fish to attract fishermen to the area, so black bass was introduced in 1958, which had devastating effects on the local ecosystem. The bass consumed more than 2/3 of the native fish, which caused the extinction of a rare bird called the Atitlan grebe that was indigenous only to the surrounding lake area. Ahead of me is not a bus full of school children, but rather a public bus carrying passengers to their destination. They are nicknamed chicken buses by locals because you typically see way more than the 57-person capacity in them. These buses are driven down from the US after their service life has ended. They are overhauled, repainted, and put right back on the road again. This particular bus is going very fast around these corners, and I just hope that his brakes are keeping cool. It seems like it's taking forever to reach this lake, but I'm not complaining with scenery like this. This windy road along this mountainous backdrop is a motorbiker's dream come true. Looks like a resurfacing project is going on here, but I don't see any workers or flagmen controlling this single-lane road. At this point in my travels, not much surprises me anymore. Finally, the lake is in view, and it is stunning. But looking at these poor road surface conditions, I'm going to have to really focus on the road and my riding. This literally is the most difficult road I have ever ridden on. I'm unable to go too fast because of the sharp corners, and I can't go too slow or my tall, heavy bike will topple over. Combine that with beach ball-sized potholes and sandy spots near the corners. My heart rate is at its limit. I checked the time when I was near the summit of this mountain road, and I later realized that it took me an hour just to get down to lake level. The small brakes on my bike and my heavy gear dictated a very slow pace. The local Maya community has suffered a very tragic past that happened not long ago. From 1960 to 1996, Guatemala was in a civil war. The war was fought between the government and the rebel groups that consisted of ethnic Maya and Ladino, or non-indigenous Guatemalan peasants, who together made up the rural poor. Because the indigenous Maya were known for being supportive of the rebels, they were targeted by the military, and at least 300 inhabitants of Santiago Atitlan on the south side of the lake went missing during the conflict, presumably massacred. In total, an estimated of 200,000 Guatemala civilians were killed during the Civil War. Such a tragedy. From my perspective, growing up in a developed country, these small lakeside villages seem very poor to me. But what if you grew up in these villages, and this was all that you knew, and you didn't know what it was like growing up in a developed country? Would this be considered poor to you? I think 20 years ago, no, it would be normal. But now in 2017, maybe yes. Maybe you would see yourself as living in a poor community. Life is about perspective no matter where you are in the world. But when this perspective gets unified with technologies like smartphones and the internet, perhaps underdeveloped countries will have the desire to be more like the developed ones. Maybe the rate of social change around the world will happen more quickly. Only time will tell. Ah, thank goodness. I've finally made it. I may have to agree with the statement that Lake Atitlan is one of the most beautiful lakes in the world. To my surprise, I heard the sound of thunder roaring in the distance. One of the volcanoes here erupted during my visit, and I was told it goes off just about once a week. I stayed at a place called Passage Cap, which rents out cottages and has space for RVs and tents. I met other travelers from all over the world, and everyone was just so friendly and welcoming. I really had an amazing time. What an awesome view to wake up to each morning. This is truly a special place. The daily happy hour was especially my favorite. It was a good opportunity to let loose and engage in very interesting conversation. I ended up spending a week here, but sadly it was time to go. With camp broken down and the bike all loaded, I'll be hitting the road again only to backtrack the same way I came. That large white RV you see straight ahead belongs to a lovely lady named Christine. I still don't know how she drove that here. The Passage Cap property is located just east of a town called San Marcos La Laguna. The area is full of hippie backpackers, vacationers, and native Maya in traditional dress. It's really a unique travel destination. If you're not traveling on your own wheels, it is possible to get here. There is an international airport in Guatemala City, and you'll have to bus and/or taxi the rest of the way. And if you decide to rent a car, be sure to add on all the insurance available. And make sure you know how to change a flat tire. Despite Guatemala's tragic past, every local I encountered were very friendly and helpful. I got such a warm feeling of being welcomed here, just the complete opposite of what one might expect based on reading the frightening news reports. I now feel like I've molded into Guatemala, and it is really growing on me. I can't wait to explore more of this beautiful country. There is an ancient Maya city located in the Puddle region to the north, but it's over a 12-hour drive away. It would add at least another week to my travels, so I'll just have to bite my knuckles and skip it. So now that I've passed the villages of San Marcos and San Pablo, it's time to snake back up this mountain and continue southward toward the city of Antigua, Guatemala. I'm sure I'll be putting all 40 horses to use during this climb. Riding around these corners is very dangerous now compared to when I was descending. From this vantage point, it is nearly impossible to see if there's opposing traffic. I'm trying really hard not to drive over the large potholes and sandy patches, but in doing so, I'm using the entire width of the road. I forgot how many corners there were on this road. Whoa, that was close. Okay, stay focused, Josh. It's nice to see an effort is being made to repair these potholes. I think the chicken buses should have to pay a road toll because they're probably the heaviest vehicle around here causing the most damage. While it's nice to see infrastructure improvement projects, it's not so nice to have to wait over an hour for the road to open back up. I definitely feel refreshed and re-energized after camping on Lake Atitlan. It's important to listen to your mind and body when they need to take a break. Stress can very quickly build up day after day, problem after problem, and if you don't take care of yourself, it's a recipe for disaster. Now that I've climbed past the summit of this mountain pass, it's time to pick up the speed and hammer down some miles as I make my way to Antigua, Guatemala. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. For me, this part of Guatemala is absolutely gorgeous. The forests, tall mountains, and pristine lakes and rivers very much resonates with me, not to mention the charming little villages and super friendly locals. I may have taken a wrong turn back there, but I'm not complaining. This is a dirt road I can manage. Now that I think of it, I hope it's not someone's driveway. Oh well, I'll find out sooner or later. Alright, back on the pavement again, and according to the GPS, I'm not far from the main highway. If you've been following along these episodes, it's probably because you're interested in this type of travel. The travel that doesn't involve destination resorts or luxury hotels. You may have a lot of doubts, questions, fear, and anxiety. The only thing I can really tell you is to just go. Pick a place that seems curious to you and just go. I compare this kind of traveling to our journey through life. It's something you really can't plan before you start. So just go. You'll figure things out along the way. I want to thank you for joining me so far throughout my expedition through Guatemala. There is still plenty left to see of this beautiful country, but it will have to wait until next episode. If you enjoyed watching this episode, be sure to subscribe, and if you haven't already done so, check out the other episodes in the channel. There's lots of great scenery, good music, and tours of ancient ruins and pyramids, and I really hope that you'll learn a little something new by watching. Safe travels, everyone, wherever they may be, and have a wonderful day.